Welcome back to the pod. This is an exciting day because we have Sylvia back
Yes,
here again.
I'm
And
back.
oh, it's amazing. I'm so excited. If you have not listened to our last podcast episode together, go and do it because that was just such a fun podcast to record with you. You have since moved, and I want to. You and I were just catching up, and I'm like, press record,
Yes,
let's go.
yes.
So, where did you move to?
So I moved to Geneva, Switzerland.
Hmm. And how are you liking it?
I love it now, but it was not the sentiment I felt when I first moved here. So I first moved, it was July 25th. And that was my husband's birthday. So we landed. It was, birthday party. Everything was great. Then 2 days later, we packed our stuff and drove to Italy, had a wonderful vacation. And then I came back on a Sunday, 10 days later. And I still remember it like it was yesterday. It was gray. It was drizzly. It was cold and everything's closed on a Sunday. And I had my what the fuck moment. Like, what the fuck did I just do? Wait, I'm not going back to Miami? Like, what? Like, this was all fun when we were talking about it, but the reality of it, I was also tired. I had not given myself the time or space to process the change, the transition, the move. I mean, once we made the decision in March of this year, everything was just like boom, 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 boom. Then get ready for the move and tell my clients and, prepare my son and pack the house. And it's an international move. And la 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 and the goodbye parties and this and that, end of school. And then that Sunday, it was like everything that I had buried deep, everything that I put on the back burner, all the tiredness came bubbling out.
Mhm.
I was a bubbling mess. I started to just cry. I had an uncontrollable, like, ugly cry. And the trigger was, so we'd gotten back to the apartment. It was still empty. We had a couple like rental pieces of furniture because everything was in a container making its way over. My husband was taking a nap. I think my son was playing video games, and I went to lay down and I just cried and cried and cried. And then no one was coming after me. It was like, no one knows I'm crying. All right. I need someone to know I'm crying. I have this thing. So then I go into the living room. My husband's still sleeping. I'm like, he's sleeping. He's fine. Nobody knows I'm suffering. So I just start crying and I'm moving some stuff around. He's like, are you okay? What? Like coming out of his sleep. I'm like, no, I'm not okay. It's too much. It's too much. Everything. Then
Well,
I had my witness and then he gave me a hug and I felt better.
and I want everybody to grab your journals because we're going to be talking today about what happens after you make those bold moves.
Mm-hmm.
You go through this period of loneliness. You go through this period of who am I? You go through this period of what's next? What did I just do? And you've jumped off the cliff and
Yes.
you're free falling. And then all of a sudden it's this now what?
Yes.
What's next? Where is
Mm-hmm.
my community? Where are my friends? Where are those people,
Yes.
my clients?
Mm-hmm.
Where's my
Mm-hmm.
business? What
Mm-hmm.
just happened? I did that and my move was very small compared to yours. However, I did pick up everything, a 2-year-old and an eighth grader. And I think Carson was 2, or maybe he was 3. I don't remember, but we moved across the country and that was a lot. That was a lot.
Yeah.
And just from Wisconsin to California, and you moved over the pond, as they say,
Yes.
a big pond.
Yes.
So let's dive into that. Talk
Okay.
to us about, let's dive into the loneliness. Let's dive into the what's next. Who am I? How are you circumventing this? How are you navigating through and blazing your own trail through this?
Right. So I think just to kind of rewind the tape, after I had that big cry, I was like, okay, let's get through this. I think what really hit me was the feeling of where do I belong? Because my husband was going back to work. He was going back to the office that he had left 12 years ago. He's worked for the same company for 24 years. He was born and raised in Geneva. All his friends are here. He belongs here. He
Yeah.
has that sense of belonging. It's his
Yeah.
culture, it's his language, it's his friends, it's everything. Okay. Then my son was going to start an international school, and I played his wing woman. I put him first. I said, listen, I'm going to make sure that I introduce him to at least 3 to 5 friends that he gets situated and he'll be good. And I was successful. I would see him play with a friend. I'd go up to the friend, hey, I'm Marco's mom. Is your mom around or nanny? And they would say yes. And then I talked to the mom or the nanny and said, hey, looks like the kids are really getting along. Maybe we could schedule a play date. So for 2 weeks, I was like, with it, play dates, gatherings, all of that. And then it was that third week when I knew he was okay. My son, was well, integrated or at least starting the process. And my husband obviously was way integrated before. And then I was like, wait, what about me? Like,
Mm.
who are my friends? Where do I belong? I'm not going to a school. I don't have my office that I used to have. Where are my clients? I mean, I had 10 virtual clients that wanted to in Florida that still legally can continue working with me. But it was that, where's my place? Nothing in the apartment felt familiar. Nothing in Geneva felt familiar. And everything was just so different. I said, oh my God. So then I leaned into my husband. I said, I'm feeling lonely. I need some emotional support. And guess what? He couldn't give it to me. He's like, I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I don't know what else you need. I'm doing as much as I can. He could not do what I needed to do for myself, which I needed to find Geneva through my eyes. I needed to discover Geneva through my eyes. And that was the best advice I had gotten from one of my friends. She's a therapist. Her name's Erica Smith Murray. And I called her. It was an SOS call. It was one of those days where my husband was just, up to here. And he, in his mind, thought he was doing everything that he could to make me and my son comfortable. And he just couldn't get the emotional component that I was asking for, which rightfully so. It was the inner work that I needed to do. And I called Erica. I was like, Erica, it's SOS. I'm just like, I don't know. I don't think I can do it. I don't know what I did. She's like, okay, let it out, breathe. Yes, 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 yes. It all makes sense. And then she just finally went to the straight point, like, Sylvia, you've been trying to discover Geneva through your husband's eyes. You've been trying to discover Geneva through your son's eyes. You got to sit down and get in touch with yourself, get in touch with your essence, and start to find Geneva through that place. And I was like, you're right. You're right. And that's what I slowly started to do. I said, okay, I don't need to take French lessons. Like, yes, I will learn French. Yes, I need to learn French, but am I doing it because I feel like I have to go to school and I'm trying to meet people? Yes, but my essence, what do I love? I love writing. I love the parks. I love nature. I love working out. I love architecture. And so I just started to do that. I started to get back into reshaping my book proposal. I started to spend more time in the parks. I then, I met another mom from the school that is also a writer. And I said, well, let's get together and be writing partners. Hold each other let's hold each other accountable for our writing. Then we started to meet in the last 2 weeks, last 3 weeks, we started to meet once a week. And so it really wasn't until the last month that I started to finally feel at home, because I was discovering Geneva through my eyes.
Wow. Every single time that we make a bold move, something like this happens, I have found in my own life too, because we are changing who we are as we are up leveling, facing those difficult moments, doing the difficult, right? And then it's this new space of, who am I and where do I belong within myself? It's not a bad,
Absolutely.
beautiful place to be, because that's where we
Absolutely.
discover more of ourselves.
Absolutely. And to be completely transparent, Sarah, I knew that there was a part of me carrying my old habits and my old self with me to Geneva. I was like, okay, I'm not really in Geneva. I'm just going to cram in more clients, and I'm going to spend 3 hours at the gym, and I'll just rush to go pick up my son at school and rush back and do this and do that. And I said, oh my goodness, look at me. I'm doing that thing I did in Miami where I just crammed my schedule full and didn't leave enough time for self. And then ironically, yesterday,
Mm.
as I only gave myself 30 minutes to go pick up my son in between clients, I'm riding my bike as fast as I can. I hit a curb and I fly over the handlebars, and I scratched my face so bad. I basically, when I flew off the handlebars, I landed on the right side of my face, and the bike, which is an electric bike, fell on my leg. So
Ooh.
if you could see me, the listeners can't see me, but I have a pretty big bruised cheek and upper eyelid, and my leg is so sore and bruised I can barely walk. And it happened so fast I couldn't believe that I had fallen. I was like, what? So just to get to the meaning of it, I realized yesterday after the falls, I was sitting in the infirmaries section, and getting taken care of. I said, okay, this is the message to slow down, and not just slow down my pace, but to slow down and make more space for self, because all this busyness that I find myself trying to get into is what is actually, I think, leading to more loneliness, because it's the busyness that disconnects us from our soul, our self, and we get caught up in all the doing, right? Even if it's under the disguise of helping others. And we keep putting self on the back burner and the back burner. And so today I didn't go to the gym. I uploaded an old podcast that I did a year ago. And I just said, okay, self, I surrender to you. I surrender to you. I will create more space for you. And that's where I feel this bold move is leading me into, is to discover a part of myself that I don't even know what is it about. I have not discovered this part of me before, but I definitely feel it emerging. I feel the space was always there. I just feel myself finally willing to step into that space. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I can feel the momentum. And there is this odd calmness with me in juxtaposition with like the hyperness, like, wait, we're not really going to slow down. But the other part is saying it's time. It's time. It's time to slow down. It's time to create more space for self. It's time to discover your true voice. It's time to discover parts of yourself that all the busyness doesn't allow.
Wow. Do you feel, as I'm listening to you, do you feel like so often we see the world, are we conditioned to do that, to see the world through others' eyes versus our own?
I think yes and no. I think we're conditioned in that way. And also, I think maybe it's, I like to bring it back to shadow work. And Carl Jung believed that he was, what basically the pioneers of psychoanalysis, Freud and Jung, but, C.G. Jung believed that we have all these parts of ourselves that make us whole. But starting at birth, we start splitting these parts off. What's considered good, what's considered bad. But in general, let's say what your parents, what your family, what your society said, oh, that's not good. That's too big. That's too small. That's too loud. That's too, whatever it is. That's gross. That blah, 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 blah. We start splitting these parts off. And then I think when we start seeing the world through other people's eyes, maybe it's us trying to see not just through their eyes, but we are projecting a part of ourselves that we've disowned onto that person. And maybe unconsciously, it's a safe way. Well, if I look through another person's eyes who I sense is successful, or if I look through another person's eyes who I sense is, I don't know, caring or whatever, maybe it's that part of ourselves that we've split off and we're just projecting it onto the other person and we're trying to look through their eyes, but it's really ours. Mm-hmm. So I think yes and no. Yes, maybe a part of ourselves that, especially if you're a caregiver, you or an empath, you tend to really feel what other people feel, and you just naturally see the world through their eyes. But perhaps there's also something even deeper, something that you've cut off that is asking to be reclaimed, if that makes any sense.
That makes 100% sense. No, it does. I get this because before my mom passed away, we had this conversation about moving and changes and how we go through all these changes in our life. And she said, the one thing about you is that you're always okay. You just come out okay. You just, you through it. You just come out okay. Yeah. And better than okay. I'm not saying just okay, but better than okay. Even moving, right? Like, I don't have a hard time with moving anymore. I sold my house and moved across the street into this itty bitty little place, this rental, got rid of all my stuff post-divorce. I was like, okay, stripping down. This is what we're doing. And as I'm listening to you, I'm getting some serious clarity in my life. So thank
Mm.
you. And the clarity is not looking through the lens of society, not looking at the world from a place of how people think it should be done. It's this looking through the lens of where do I belong at this moment as I continue to find and dive into this relationship with myself a little bit more deeply. And who do I want
Yes.
to be? And how do I want to be? And how do I want to live? It goes back to what Brene Brown said, right? About this whole thing with belonging. It's about, yes, we belong to this world, but first we have to belong to ourselves, and we have to be able to stand alone, speak our truth and our honesty, and stand against that fray or stand above that fray, right? Soar above that fray and really get to know who we are when we are amidst those moments of change.
Yes. And I think loneliness is the invitation for that. I think so many of us are scared to be alone.
Oh, I
So
know.
many of us are scared to feel lonely. And yet, if you can reframe loneliness as an opportunity to get to know yourself, capital S, ELF, on a much deeper level, and you can transform maybe loneliness into solitude, self-discovery, self curiosity, and just, not all of it is going to feel spiritual. Like some of it's going to feel pretty fucking hard.
Yes.
But if you can look at loneliness as an invitation to really get to know your true self on a much deeper level, and learn, how to stand on your own, to speak your voice, even without, an accolade, or even amongst criticism, when you give yourself that chance to embrace that part of yourself, then I don't think you feel so lonely, because once you really step through that threshold and you discover the power of yourself, then I don't think you can ever really feel alone when you are connected to self. And I think it was Maya Angelou in an interview. This was in like the late 70s, but it was this gorgeous interview that she had given. And at the end, she was like, I belong to me.
Mm-hmm.
I belong to me. And we can say that, but to really know the experience that comes with it to get to that place is so personal. And I haven't gotten there yet. I think I've experienced loneliness on like the outer levels of, oh, I'm lonely because my dad left, to live in Kazakhstan, and I lived alone my last 2 years of high school. Or, oh, I've experienced loneliness, as a mother of a newborn, and I didn't have my birth mother to help. Like, yeah, I experienced loneliness, but I didn't take it to the threshold to really discover my deeper self in those moments. I think I was still just scared and focused on, wait, who's going to be there? I'm all alone. And now that I'm here in Switzerland, I've created an incredible community in just 3 months. But even a part of me is like, okay, this is great. I love the connections, but I think it's time for me to actually spend more time alone to get deeper with self, so I can really understand like what my voice is. Because I think so often, as a people pleaser, or as someone that still struggles with negative self-talk or imposter syndrome, I sometimes still alter my voice to appease others. And I think I'm finally at that place at 44 where I am ready to say, okay, I want to discover what my true voice is. And I think sometimes getting really quiet and maybe being alone is an opportunity to do that.
I'm loving you more and more every time we have these discussions.
Oh, I love you too, Sara.
I go into a trance. I go into a trance because this has been my last 10 years, girl. Like, this has literally been my last 10 years. This is like, I will start crying as I'm sitting here thinking about all those times that I grabbed my paddleboard and intentionally went alone 4 miles off sea to be with whales and dolphins, because I lost my voice. I was in the shadow. Somebody else spoke for me for how many years, and I had no idea. And coming out of that and understanding who I am, diving into that relationship with self. It's been one of the most beautiful journeys of self-discovery and personal development and healing, resilience, making those bold moves that I could ever have freaking imagined, ever.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that we need to go to those new places in order to, and I'm saying like physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, just like you have, to really put us in that place of discernment between what's happening on the outside world and what's happening on the inside of us.
Absolutely.
It's wild. And I will say, I want to be very clear on something. Y'all are going to make mistakes when you do this.
Oh, yeah.
Y'all are going to make mistakes. You're going to screw
Mm-hmm.
up. I ended up in relationships along the way that I'm like, how the hell did I end up here again? How did I trip up? How did I fall? How did I fall off my own bike? Over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember one time I I was in a car accident, and I got out of the car. I smashed into the car ahead of me. I was on the phone with my mom. I was not on the phone. I was on Bluetooth, but I was talking to her, and all of a sudden I slammed into the car ahead of me, which had stopped. That car slammed into the car ahead of them. I got out of my car, and I had my Ugg boots on, and I pulled them off and I threw them down on the ground. And I was like, what in the hell is happening in my life? You know, when you're going through those feelings of belonging and where do I belong and who am I and all of this turmoil that happens, you have mistakes that happen. You crash your own car.
Yeah.
And going through that space of self-forgiveness is what allows you to belong more into yourself. It gives you grace and space to say, I'm human too, and I'm going to screw up, and I'm going to do things that I wouldn't normally have done. And that's okay, because that's how we understand and learn more about who we are.
Absolutely.
That's where we find that sense of belonging and who we are.
Yeah. You know, I had a really tough conversation with myself, and then I self-reflected with my new friend here in Geneva. Her name is Elizabeth, call her Liz. And I said, Liz, I have something I'm going to share with you that's a little bit embarrassing. And I know we don't know each other that much, but I had this epiphany that I have been playing dumb for so long. And I've kind of known it. Like, my husband laughs a little bit. It's kind of like a little joke between us. He's like, sometimes you play dumb like you don't know, but I know you know. And then I think you don't know. And then you really do know. And then you get me to do something. I'm like, no, don't. But then I guess I do. So, but the other part of me saying that I play dumb is I said, you know, when I meet new people, I tend to play like this, like the ditzy. Sorry, I mean, I know we're both blonde, but I'm like, I kind of play like the ditzy blonde.
I totally get it.
Yeah, like I'll play like the ditzy blonde, or I call myself the golden retriever. I'm like, I'm like goofy and very like nice to meet you, And I said, I think what it really is there's this part of me that is submissive when I'm in like a social setting. Like, I'll be the golden retriever. I'll get on my belly so you can scratch my belly, because my shadow part is, if I see an alpha female or someone that's really intelligent or strong, it's like, oh, I'll just play the ditzy blonde, the golden retriever, so happy, whatever. And I said, but I know that is limiting the wise voice inside myself. That's limiting other parts of myself. And I just... and then she's kind of looking at me because she doesn't know me that well. And she's like, well, I did, when I first met you, you had this. And then I think she didn't know if she had permission to tell me the truth. And yeah, so she didn't really say. It was just broadly like, yeah, I kind of got that vibe because you let this other kid walk your dog. And then he was like dragging your dog into the pool. And you were just kind of like, oh, it's okay. Well, really, I didn't want to say anything to the kid because the mom who had organized it all was his mom, and I was not going to, say anything to the kid in front of the alpha. So, but I'll just like, go. Anyways, but my point of sharing all that with you was, I had to dig a little bit deeper and said, okay, well, where did this playing dumb come from? Because my other complex is the imposter syndrome, right? So I'm like, oh, I'm not smart enough. But where did it really start? Well, I think it started with my father, because my father, as someone who I think has narcissistic tendencies, you can't be smarter than him. You cannot say you know something, because he knows best and he knows more. And I think my father, who came from a deep deeply insecure place because he was called dumb in school and he was called stupid. And, his mom had, my grandmother, hit him right with he told me one time with an I don't know, like an extension cord, because he was getting bad grades. But really he had a speech impediment, he had a hearing impediment, and it went undiagnosed. But so I think my dad, coming from the insecure place, he had to build up this bravado. I know everything, I'm the best, I'm the smartest. But him raising me as a single dad, especially someone who didn't speak English properly, who had a broken accent, who is a hard worker, I couldn't be smarter than him. Even though I was straight A student, I couldn't speak my voice because I think deep down that was something that would not intimidate him, but I think that would question his authority. So I learned from a very young age to survive in my environment, that in a way I had to play dumb so I wouldn't get his wrath. Because if you ever question him, he would get really upset. And so I just came to a place in my life the last couple of weeks. I said, that which served me long time ago does not serve me anymore. I honor it. I thank it. And now it's time for me to really step into this other part of self and step into this other way of being, and not be so afraid for other people to see it. Because for me, playing, the golden retrievers, like me, please pet me, like
Right.
me, can we be friends? And that's exhausting. And then am I really offering a true connection for the other person? No, surface. It's great, for just, I don't know, surface friends. But I think there is a craving for me to dig deeper, discover deeper parts of myself, and create deeper relationships with others based on those vulnerabilities. And that depth that's always been there, I just keep myself at the surface.
And you would not have found that had you not have moved and put yourself into this place, this huge, bold move that you did take,
Mm-hmm.
and allowing
Mm-hmm.
yourself to also embrace the fact that you do need to be alone for a little bit, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I feel like I have had moments where I go in and out of it. When I was studying shamanism in Arizona, when I've done workshops, and I was presenting, I'm like, wait, no, this is me. Or I remember when I was in Tulum and, I was just, I gave an impromptu yoga class. It's like, no, this is me. So I've had glimmerings of it, but then it's like, I step into self-betrayal. I'm like, okay, well, who do I need to be to still maintain these relationship with these other people? Oh, my friend wants to go to this restaurant. She doesn't want to go to the sound bowl healing. Okay, my husband doesn't like that food. Okay, so we need to go here. And that damn people pleaser gets in the way, and I betray self.
Hmm.
So I get glimmers of her, but then I'm like, but don't I have to be liked to be loved? So you don't abandon me. And yet I abandon myself
Right.
over and over and over again until I have those little glimmers. Like when you said you went swimming with the dolphins and you're paddling out there, it's like, oh, I want that for myself. I've done it before, but I want to be able to go out again and be okay with myself and not worry about pleasing someone or displeasing someone, and just be there with self. And maybe it won't be a paddleboard into the ocean, but maybe it is a walk through the park by myself, and just me being with me, and not the podcast, not the music, not trying to learn something to be better. Just I think it's getting more still and getting more quiet and slowing things down, to shift that fear of being alone to a discovery of what's underneath.
Well, and I think too, what I have found is that it helps build deeper, more meaningful relationships
Absolutely.
with other people. If you're just surface level yourself, how are you going to have deep relationships with others?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the beautiful thing is that we learn through this time, when we do take time for ourselves and we allow ourselves to make the mistakes and we allow ourselves to go deeper, and we're not afraid
Mm.
to jump. We're not afraid to fall. We're not afraid
Mm-hmm.
to land sometimes in places we didn't expect.
My challenge, Sarah, is I love the level of depth that I can experience with another human being as a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in that safe container, but it's a specific role I play. Um, and I feel it, and I'm like, I can't do that with friends. I can't do that in my social settings because it's just like
I do that all the
you get.
time.
I just feel like some people are. I don't know, like you know, I don't know. But my challenge is I would like to experience that level of depth and connection that I do with clients with other people, but I haven't yet found the right way to do it without feeling that I'm going too deep or getting too personal, because there is something in terms of like the therapeutic relationship that's so sacred that I haven't yet felt. I mean, maybe with a few friends I have, but I don't know. I need to work on it. I need to work on
I
it.
love this conversation. And so I've had the opposite happen
Mm.
where I go so deep with people on a regular basis that I sometimes have to say, okay, wait a second. I'm kind of exhausted. I need some surface level shit right now.
So maybe it's a balance. Yeah.
I
We need the fluff. We need the
literally
fluff.
do. I have this. Now I will say that through my journey of the last 10 years and really getting to that place of finding and loving myself this deeply, and I do feel like I belong more to myself now than I ever in my life have, ever.
Amazing.
Girl,
I love that.
I freaking love me. And that's not like from an ego space, that's from a space of, soaring. Like I feel now turning 50, 10 years out. I'm literally officially 10 years this Thanksgiving out of that discovery that I had with my husband. Isn't that crazy? It's crazy,
Wow.
crazy. It's just wild to me. 10 years. And
And
I,
happy birthday.
thank you. It's exciting. I'm at a very different precipice, exciting time in my life. And, going through this, I'm going through an rebrand with my business, with like literally everything that I'm doing and
I
how I'm
love that.
being. And I will say that the flip side of that is that my space, those people that I surround myself with, it's become much smaller.
Mm.
And I think the reason why is because, and perhaps this is something also dear friend to dear friend to really dive into, is for me, it's not the quantity, it's completely the quality. And
Yes.
sometimes I'm finding that my having to, in certain situations, let go and say, okay, okie dokie, that's totally cool. You don't want to be here
Yeah.
right now, that's fine. And not holding on tight to it and just saying right now at this moment, it's a release. And that's creating space
Yes.
for other things too.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
it's really enlightening, but it's also very empowering and it's very freeing. It's
Yes.
freeing.
One thing that, as you're talking, I was just thinking about with this fall from the bicycle, how it's really helped me appreciate these three circles or three spheres that Vivek Murthy, he wrote a book called Together. He's the former Surgeon General of the United States. He wrote about these three groups of relationships called social spaces, and that we all need them in order to thrive and to feel connected. And that, some on the outside circle are more of like those surface friendships per se. And they are not going to be the people that are very close to you. He titled it the active network, but it's that outermost circle, anywhere between like 150 to maybe like 1,500 people. But these are acquaintances, from work, from school, associations, etc. So you wouldn't really label them friends, but you know their names, you have shared common interests, etc. And then you have the smaller circle, the sympathy group, and they're more of your meaningful friendships and family relationships, the people that do provide you the emotional support. Um, they're they're close to you, but not as close as the inner circle, which is the smaller circle in the middle. I mean, yeah, in the center, the inner circle, and that's your small intimate circle. Those one or two, three friends that really know you, that you could call at any time during the day or night, and that are able to provide you that emotional support. And for me, when I had this accident, I had at least 5 people in my very recent outer circle, my active network, just acquaintances and moms that I met briefly through, the school, all reach out to me. And I was so touched, like, wow, my neighbor, today she brought me breakfast, pastries, and then later came at lunch to provide me this beautiful salad. I had 3 moms contact me through social media to see if I needed anything. And then 2 moms reached out on WhatsApp saying, look, we can pick your son up, or we could drop him off, or we could pick him up for a play date. So I had at least 5 acquaintances on the outermost circle provide me the most nurturing, loving care and support without really knowing me. And I felt so touched. And I said, wow, look at this. This really does make an impact. And you don't have to be that close to people to feel that level of connection. And I think for me, it was touching because my family doesn't even know I got into a bike accident. It happened last night. I got busy with work. They don't follow me on social media.
At different time zones. Yeah.
But it's just, I think that the quality is amazing, when you talk about your inner group, but I think it's also important to maintain and make the effort to have those outer circles too, because we need them to thrive, not just the inner, but we need the sympathy group, the active network. And I'm just so humbled and grateful for that outer network that reached out today to help me.
Yes. How do you give us some thoughts on how do you create those relationships, putting yourself out there when you are new to this entire space? How are you doing that? What are you doing? Because I get this a lot from people like, well, I'm moving. Now, how am I supposed to find those people around me when I don't have my kids anymore? Or, because so often we find people through our children. Well, how do we do it when it's just us? And I'm going to be through that. I'm making a hell of a huge change in a year and a half myself from where I'm living. So I'm sitting in that same space. My bold move's coming up too.
Okay. Well, instead of a vision board, I recommend creating a value board. All the things that you value and that are really important to you. Create that value board. And with that, I think you gain clarity of the things that are really not just important to you, but that are meaningful to you, that are purposeful to you. And then with that value board, I think that you set the intention. I want to meet people who are on the same page like me with my values, people that value nature, people that value kindness, people that value community, people that value the climate, et cetera, et cetera. And then I think when you become clear with your values and you have that value board, then also think about some, what are some things that you're interested in doing? Is it cooking? Is it kayaking? Is it whatever? And then, because you could go to let's say a cooking class and you meet someone that's not on the same page with your values. They have a completely different value system in terms of how they treat people and et cetera, et cetera. So having that core value board and being in touch with that first, then, setting the intention to meet others, and then being really clear, 1 or 2 interests that you like, make the effort. So maybe it's a running club, maybe, because I'm thinking in my head, well, what if they say I don't like running, and maybe it's cooking? I don't,
there's all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
Yes. You'll find your objections, but I think the value board will help you move through the objections. And that will just kind of, laws of attraction will bring people towards you, or bring you and those other people together that value the same values. And I think when you align your life with your values, you live a life worth living, because it is in alignment with what is important to you, not your husband, not your partner, not your family, what's most important to you. And when you align yourself with that, no matter what you do, whether you're alone or with people, your life will have value and meaning and purpose.
I couldn't agree any more than what you just said. 100%. 100%. It's this is something that I've been sitting with, because yeah, I'm moving at some point, probably in the next year and a half, into a different
Where?
self, which I'm super excited about.
Yeah.
I will share with you one of the things that I've thought about is putting all my stuff into storage and traveling for a year and
Yes.
making my boldest move yet, because I didn't get
Woohoo.
that. I was a mom at 17. I didn't get to go and travel the world. I didn't get to backpack. So throwing what I need into my pack, letting everything else stay behind, and meet
Yes.
people that I have also had these conversations with, like you, and saying, "Hey, I'm going to come to Switzerland. Let's
Yes.
go
Come to
around.
Geneva. Yes.
Let's go." And
Yes. We'll go up into the Alps.
oh yeah, girl. Oh my gosh. And that to me would be one of my boldest moves yet. And I walk
Wow.
in what I preach, and I'm really excited about it. And it's also,
Yes.
there's been fear behind it, and there's so much at that same time excitement over the people that I get to meet.
Yes. And the
Because
global community
of
you
the
can build.
global community. And because here's the thing is that we, through these bold moves that we make, right? And I know I talk about this a lot. And by the way, I just literally trademarked make bold moves, by the way, which is super
Yeah.
exciting. And through these bold moves that we make, we also find this deeper understanding of self and where we do belong with self, regardless of where we are physically at that moment. And that is the most beautiful thing we can possibly experience.
Yes. Absolutely.
I'm excited for you as you embark on this journey into self even more deeply.
Yes. Thank
I
you.
love that you are talking about and sharing so openly how you feel like you've also not been 100% yourself
Mm-mm.
show up.
Mm-hmm.
And I experienced that myself for a number of years. And then even through my betrayal, I thought I was one person, right? And then I realized, well, wait a second, was I really being who I wanted to be? Because was I altering who I was unbeknownst to me? I mean, it's confusing. There's so
Yeah.
many layers to it, and it can become extremely confusing. And at the
Absolutely.
same time, I have found in my life, my mom passed away in July of 2022, and
So
I,
sorry.
thank you. Yeah, I have found in my own life through those discussions that I had with her that, we are brought onto this earth. We are born this person, and we also leave this earth. We leave this person, this body that we have, and it really does become full circle, right? It's all about finding that person that we were intended to become all along.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I just think like all the different roles that we think we have to play, but I think it's just like shedding the roles and yeah, like you said, like discovering who you've always been. But I think so many of us have been kind of scared not to discover that because we might piss somebody off or we may not be the good girl or, that's just not what you do. But, you know, I think one of the boldest moves you can make is choosing self. And
Yeah.
that can be really hard for a lot of people. I think primarily because usually the guilt that comes with it, but choosing self, but capital SELF. Like, I think that's the greatest gift that you can give others because when you choose self, you give other people permission to do the same.
Yeah. And
And
I'll,
you're giving me permission. Like when you talk about traveling the world and your adventurous spirit and that you're never too old, to start, a new project, to live a dream, to be bold, to take this risk and to really just like connect with that part of you that's so adventurous and to be it and to breathe it is so inspiring for me and other people.
I will say, and I will get very vulnerable and authentic with my words on this one. My boldest move in my life has been, yes, understanding myself more deeply through this betrayal that I had lived through. It's also allowing myself to love another human to the depth
Oh,
that I also have allowed myself to love me.
wow.
And that's been, I would say, through this understanding and trust of myself and trust of others, that's been the boldest move that I have stepped into. It's wild, it's like this
Yeah.
is wild. And I will say, and I want people to please listen to this. There is no perfect human.
Mm-mm.
We're not perfect. I am not perfect. And I
Mm-mm.
think throughout life, we get hung up on perfection so much that we miss the fact that our greatest learning comes through our failures. It comes
Absolutely.
through that risk taking. It comes through the bold moves that we make, knowing and understanding that we are doing the very best that we can at that moment. And you will screw up. You will screw up. You're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Going
And
to.
sometimes it is those mistakes that are the threshold, the rite of passage, the opening that will take you to the next level. Like, I don't think I would have had the clarity to really like slow down and discover this news, not news because it's been there, but just to really slow down and commit to self if I hadn't made the mistake and, hit the curb and flew off. It was just like, okay, this is the moment. Not wait till next year, not, get caught up in the go, go, go and blah, 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 blah. Now, slow down now.
Yeah.
And so I think, yes, when we make those mistakes, it's a threshold. And as you said, nobody's perfect. And I think we are all perfectly imperfect. And it is through our imperfections that I think we do discover those deeper qualities of self and our authenticity.
Yes. And relationships, deeper relationships
Yes.
with others,
Yes. Yes.
way deeper relationships with others.
And when we can embrace our own imperfections, we can embrace the others and then experience true connection.
I could not agree more. I have shivers, like literally, like my hair is on edge right now. My
I
hair is on
love
edge
it.
right now. There's this, we are tapping into such that also what you're giving me, which is a true gift that you're giving me and to other people listening to this and watching this, because this is also tapping into this next phase that I'm stepping into as well, which is super exciting. It's
Yes.
just so exciting. I will say that resistance and reluctance to do this work is there. I know for a lot of people.
Always.
That's the way, my friends. That is the way. It's through the resistance. That is the way.
Yes. Yes.
So I want to end with you giving your listeners, those people that are learning from you right now, any other advice, any other knowledge that you have found since the last time that I have spoken with you. And please, let's do this again. This is like, you're one of my favorite, I gotta tell you.
Oh, thank you.
I just love having these conversations because we never know what direction we're ultimately going to go in. We are like this free flowing conversation.
Yes.
It's the coolest.
Me too. I love it. I love it.
Oh, juicy. It's so good. It's so magical. What
Yes.
other learnings could you give, knowledge could you give to these listeners?
So what's coming for me is just hearing the words, be true to yourself. We all know those things that we do that we shouldn't be doing, yet we still do them. And they're getting in the way of you really creating space to get in touch with your true self. So being true to yourself is also, I think, being honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself with, what do you need? What are you missing? What are those resistances? Be true to yourself with honoring and acknowledging, yes, I'm scared of this, or yes, I'm resisting that. And it doesn't mean that, being true to yourself means, okay, go ahead and just do that thing. Just be true to yourself in this moment by acknowledging, whatever it is that you're feeling. One of the best pieces of advice that I heard from another woman who, she considers herself an empowerment coach. Her name is Luna Battaglia. And she said, if just in this moment, if I am the self that is feeling this somatic experience of anxiety, the tightness in my belly or the pressure in my head, if I'm just the being in this moment right now, feeling this, that's enough. So being true to yourself also, I think, is just being true by observing what it is in the moment. We can all get caught up in what's the next bold move, or, what's the next big shiny object, or what's the next big, expansion or, moment of growth. But sometimes just being true to yourself is just honoring the self in this moment, observing what is, checking in. If your tongue is on the top of your roof of your mouth, relax your tongue. If your belly's tight, relax your belly. And just in this moment, observe what is and be true to that self. Continue observing self, because with change, there comes so many different emotions, so many different thoughts. And I just think the best thing we can do is continue observing whatever comes up, whether it's considered good, bad, negative, positive, whatever it is, just observe it and say, aha, okay, in this moment, I'm observing this. And in this moment, I'm observing this thought. This moment, I'm observing this feeling. And in this moment, I honor the self by observing what is. And I think that's the best way we can be true to ourselves.
I love that. I love that. Comes full circle. And we can connect more deeply with ourselves. We can connect more deeply with others. It's beautiful. You're just an incredible, incredible woman. And I want to thank
you too
for being here, for being on this podcast. And again, if you have not listened to our last podcast together, we'll link it in the show notes, and definitely listen to that one as well, because it's always good. It's always great. It's always
yes. Well, I can't wait to host you here in Geneva. I can't wait to go hiking with you somewhere in the beautiful Alps, or just somewhere in Switzerland, because you are definitely one of my most favorite and inspirational, females out there that lives boldly, lives freely, lives authentically, and just your connection with nature is such a beautiful expression of that. So I can't wait to share a little bit of that with you when our paths cross.
I cannot wait either. It's fun. Like, I do believe that we complicate life. And this is what I will say, how I will also give full circle on this. We complicate life by having this, and I know this myself in my journey, having this vision that we think that everything needs to be, or how we thought it would be, or which is why I love the fact that you said, don't vision board, give yourself a values board. And, this journey that we are on, it's all unfolding, and we don't always know how it's going to unfold. And that's the beautiful part about living, and about loving, and about journeying through this. And I will say, like I preach to my kids all the time, give yourself grace, because, we are not perfect human beings.
Mm-mm.
We're never intended to be. The thing that I will also say is, please, through your own imperfections, acknowledge that other people are imperfect too. And it doesn't mean that you need to accept toxicity in your life or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying is that good people, really, really good people, are good people because they learn from those experiences, those mistakes that they have made too.
Yes.
So
I love that. Thank you.
That's my spiel for today.
I love your spiel.
My spiel of what I've learned and continue to learn over these last, 50 years, but especially these last 10 years have been just wow. As we approach Thanksgiving, I've been really sitting with the dinner table, because I haven't had a dinner table for 10 years. I haven't had like that Thanksgiving again that I've really wanted. And my entire family's coming into town, and I'm really excited about it. It's going to be a wonderful celebration, and really sharing the gratitude of everything. Right. And I think that's the most beautiful thing we can do. So
absolutely. Well, I'm grateful for you. Thank you.
I'm grateful for you. Thank you for being here. And we will.
My pleasure.
And for those of you also that want us to touch on something, whatever it is, please message Sylvia, message myself, and ask,
yes.
Hey, will you guys talk about this, or
absolutely
touch on this? And when you come back, will you come back? I mean, I'm just like,
absolutely. Yes.
I think you're like my continuum. and we have such great conversations. And so if there's something that you want us to touch on, please message me, send me an email, whatever, and we will make sure that we do that. Where can people find you?
On Instagram, Dr. Sylvia K, DrSylvia, the letter K, or on my website, www.drsylviak.com.
Awesome. And thank you for being here. And until the next time.
Until the next time.